Okay, continuing on in Chapter 3 of the aggregated data and their objects. We discussed the area type in the first video. We discussed the legend in the second video. Now we're going to be moving on to the map units. And we were discussing this McCook silt loam occasionally flooded. And one of the features that I wanted to show you was I can come in here and off of the icon toolbar or off of the table editor, I can come down here and I say find the related row, and this will find that particular related row. I want to find that particular map unit that is occurring in the map unit table. Remember, this map unit appears in the legend map unit table. It comes from the map unit. So I'm just going to take a look at this information, click OK, and there it goes to the map unit table, identifies that particular and highlights that particular map unit. Notice there's not much information here in the map unit table. The map unit name, the kind of map unit. However, we do have the new one. Once again, I'm going to check out so that you can see. I can take a look at these choice lists and just omit these errors. I'm working on a database that's new. So here we've got an MLRA type, map unit type, and we've identified whether it's an MLRA map unit, a non-MLRA map unit, or a StatsGo map unit. We included this for the evaluation effort that's going on right now to allow people to be able to identify whether this is an MLRA map unit that we are correlating to, or if it was the previous non-MLRA map units that were used in our traditional soil surveys. And then another question that comes up occasionally is this national map unit symbol. This is a unique symbol that's developed by the computer. Every time you insert a row into the map unit table and you save that record back to the map unit table in the local database, it creates what's called a national map unit symbol. This is a base 31 of the record ID for that particular record in the map unit table. The other two features that we've got here is the linear feature width and the point feature area. Map units can be a polygon, or they can be a linear feature, or they can be a point feature. And what these linear and point allow us to do is to take that linear feature, and previously where it would have been a spot symbol with no information, the linear feature now allows us to make that a map unit, and a map unit now contains soils and their properties. The same thing with a point data. Previously, a point data could have been only a spot symbol with no data tied to it. Now we have the capability of identifying a map unit as a point feature, and a good example of this would be a hydric depressional area that's less than 5 acre minimum size. That would have been a marsh spot symbol. We can now come in here, or even a depressional spot symbol. We now have the capability of coming in here and identifying those as a point feature. They are now a map unit, and that's something that you have to be aware of, and it allows us to put in a set of soils and their soil properties. I'm not even going to discuss map unit concepts for the U.S. Forest Service. We've created this information for the Forest Service, and hopefully at some time they'll start using it. And then because the map unit is an object table, in addition to being a record table, we have the site that owns that. Remember, all of our ownership is based off of the object. So once again, MLRA 5 Denver is the ownership site. This group has been assigned to 5 SAL Salina, Kansas. This object, the map unit object, was last updated. And then you can see who was the last person that updated it. And then we can also identify on that particular record who was the last one to touch that record. And here is a prime example. 10/18 is when I last touched a particular record and checked it out for a previous video. So now we can come in here and open up this table, and once again I'll look at the choice lists, And under this particular choice, I have the correlation table, the map unit history table, the map unit text table, and then these two Forest Service tables that we will not be discussing. The default table that opens up is the correlation table, and once again, data map unit is in the banner, the first record here, or first row of information. And so that banner tells us that it's coming from the data map unit table. This is the DMU description and the record ID number. And then in the correlation table, we identify the sequence number if you choose to populate it, along with representative DMU. Once again, as a column header, rep DMU is a bold italic, meaning it is a required field. So there must be at least one field, one record in this table that has this field populated. And then the constituent acres dates back to when we were developing the soil surveys and how we would manage the map units, and we would combine map units. Each one of these combinations would have its own set of data map units. And so each one of those, for example, if I was taking two consociations and moving them into a complex, this is where the constituent acres would identify the two original consociations and their total acres for each one of them. And then I would create a new data map unit for the complex that combined those two consociations, and its constituent acres would include all the acres of the independents or the individuals. And once again, record last updated by. So that gives you a sense of what that particular set of information for that map unit is. Now, the map unit history in the map unit object dates back for the traditional soil surveys when we maintained all of these records. So we're keeping the map unit history in the map unit object for historical archival purposes. And you'll be able to go back here and look at all the different why things were changed back when we were doing updates in a traditional mode. The map unit text table allows you to identify any type of notes about that particular map unit that are not correlated activities. So just to give you an example of what that is. So that gives you a sense of how the map unit is now linked to, I can come back over here. This is the particular McCook. I want to find out which legend map unit that one occurs in. I used this particular icon with a magnifying glass because I want to find that related legend map unit. And it'll then come over and find that particular legend map unit. I can then highlight that record, and then I can go to find that legend. And here is that legend that has that particular map unit. So that gives you some navigational features when you've got data, and how these features can help you out when you've got a lot of data in your selected set. So as usual, you can always go back and look at this video again, stop and start, and see where I clicked and what I did. But that now ends the third video of chapter 3. First one we talked about the area, second one we talked about legend, third one we talked about map unit, and the fourth one I'll talk about the data map unit.